like a bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see.
Welcome to the Tensegrity Repair Series. So this series was developed by a woman named Joanne. I've actually never met her, but my teacher was a student of hers, and my teacher's name is Michelle from Agna Yoga in Victoria, BC. So if you enjoy this series, Michelle does put on weekly classes, so you might be able to join her online. For now, we're just going to begin very slowly with hydrating the fascia. So we talked about that a little bit already, and this whole idea of the Tensegrity model. So that's this idea that we are held together by a web of fascia. So our bones, our muscles, our organs are all, even our cells, are held together by this interwebbing of fascia. And tensegrity is the idea that when we start to pull and bunch in one spot, say the fascia starts to get dry, it starts to stick and maybe become an adhesion, that we want to start to open that up by hydrating the fascia so it can slide and glide freely and nice and easily. So this series is all about rehydrating and allowing that fascia to slide and glide freely. That can then lead to much less pain, and it brings an awareness of how your patterns are in your body. You can bring that awareness to see where you might start to focus a little more energy and shifting. So it's a very interoceptive practice. So we really turn inward and listen and notice what's happening on the inside of our bodies. We also then notice proprioception, the outside, how we stand in space, how we move in space. And so we'll practice this together through this series. This particular video, you will need to practice prior to doing any of the other videos every time you go to practice those other videos. So the point of this video is really to start hydrating the fascia, and then once we've moisturized and hydrated it, so we've got a little bit more of a connection and understanding of the slide and glide, then we'll start to practice that in our bodies with different poses. And those will be the other videos you have in the program for the Tensegrity Repair Series. So remember, if you're ever going to do any of those other videos for the Tensegrity Repair Series, to always practice this video prior to, and then just go ahead and move into those other postures. We're not going to include the oils in these videos just because it could be interruptive or a distraction. However, if you want to bring your oils in at home, please feel free, as always, to set up your space and bring in any support that feels like it serves you for your practice day. So one of the first things that we want to think about is how our feet meet the floor. And so you can see I have my Joya toes on. So it's kind of a jelly that sits between the toes and allows them to spread evenly, giving your foot a little bit more of an even connection onto the earth. So you might really notice when you put your Joya toes on, or toe spacers, there's all different brands out there, of course. You might notice that your toe mounds kind of connect down to the earth a little bit flatter or more evenly. We can also think of that bubbling springs point a little bit easier with the Joya toes on. And then the 5 toe pads. You can feel possibly each and every toe pad and how it connects to the earth. So we'll come into first just noticing our breath, connecting to your breath. You might close your eyes or find that gaze down the bridge of your nose, a focal point on the floor. Nice deep breath. And in this series, we really focus on the radiant breath. So that three-dimensional breath, inhaling to feel front to back expand, side to side expand as well. Exhaling to feel it all gather back in a three-dimensional way. You might feel this little drawing in and up with the exhale. So that could be the belly button slightly pulling in and up. You could be connecting to your pelvic floor and feeling the diaphragm of the pelvic floor drawing in and up with the exhale, expanding with the inhale. And then you might notice how your feet land. So I'm a natural external rotator, as I've said before. So my legs are often externally rotated, my feet point out at a diagonal. And so this can cause compression in my low back. So if you think about that, that's kind of compressing the sacrum because of the rotation of the legs. So instead, when I practice the Tensegrity Repair series, it teaches me to bring awareness to allowing my feet to point straight forward and my leg bones to roll in slightly. That gives me more space in my low back. So see if you can align the side of your foot with the short side of your mat and allow your toes to point forward. And then notice that connection up through the pelvis. How your femur bones, your thigh bones, move in your hip socket. And how that might relate to your low back, what you might be feeling there. Another thing we think of a lot in this series are the suspenders of the torso. So we want to imagine we have suspenders at the bottom of your rib cage and they connect to your hip bones. And then you have suspenders at the bottom of the shoulder blades and they connect to your SI joint, so your pelvis where it connects to your spine. So when we breathe the three-dimensional breath, imagine those suspenders, they're kind of expanding as if we were growing a belly and growing big in the back. And then with the exhale, they retract, they tighten slightly. So we want to keep that awareness for our Tensegrity model, for this idea that our body moves as one, keeping a connection from foot to pelvis, pelvis through the torso to your shoulder girdle, and then also extending along the spine, using the back of the skull to kind of orient your head. So you could try this with me now. This can help for neck pain as well. We'll think of that deep front line. So you can put a block between the thighs if that serves you. Otherwise, just imagine a magnetic quality between the thighs. Feet are pointing forward. The outer edge of the foot is in line with the side of your mat. Connecting four corners of the foot, toe pads. And then thinking of the suspenders, so you might take some rotations of the hips, noticing your range of motion. And then thinking when you come to neutral pelvis, the suspenders of the rib cage and hips in the front, the suspenders of the shoulder blades, and the hips in the back. Nice radiant breath, three-dimensional, massaging the internal organs. Shoulder blades are relaxed, down your back, shoulders are down away from your ears. And then take your fingertips behind your ears and just gently press into the fingertips, fingertips into the head. So you might notice most of the day, if we're seated, that you might allow your chin to kind of come up a little bit, and then that tends to round through the upper back. I'm definitely one of those who does that. So instead, see if you can bring the chin down towards the chest and notice what happens naturally with the shoulders. So you can play with this with the fingers behind the ears. So we'll inhale to lift the chin slightly. And then exhale to tuck the chin, press into the fingers, fingers into the head, pressing the skull back. Inhale to lift the chin. Exhale, pressing into the fingers, tuck the chin. One more, inhale to allow the chin to lift. And then exhale, tucking the chin. Isometric pressure between the fingers and the head. So now you might kind of find that neutral spot for the chin. We don't want it to round forward or lift up and have the shoulders round forward. We don't want it tucked too much that we're in tension, but just a nice neutral spot that you can feel a connection up through the neck into the back of the skull. Full body awareness, full body tensegrity. So even tension and flow, effort and ease through the entire body. Once you feel you've got that concept and you can bring awareness to all of those things we've talked about, we're going to move into foot rolling. So this is where you want one of your dowels. I use the larger dowel for this part. I'm bringing it to your mat. If you don't have the dowel, you can also use, if you've got the spiky balls, a massage ball instead. Finding your proprioception, your body awareness, how it sits in space, how it lands. Connect to your radiant breath. And you can imagine with each exhale, it's almost like this zipping in and up from the pelvic floor, the foot to pelvis connection, pelvic floor zippering in and up. So you're gathering everything in with the exhale. From that center point of integrity, you can allow the outer body to kind of drape over the support of your breath and the integrity of lifting in and up with the exhale. When we have the integrity of the core, the rest of the body kind of drapes and relaxes. And otherwise, we have our outer muscles are trying to support us. And that's where we end up with pain. And as you're ready, you're going to ask your body, which foot would I like to roll out first? So whichever one you decide that you're going to roll first, usually the healthier one, remembering that your body remembers. So starting with the healthier side, it can imprint on the other side to follow suit. And then you'll transfer your weight into one side. So see if you can ground evenly into all corners of the foot. Maybe even if you're an external rotator, more into the inner heel. So I notice if I ground into the outer foot, my hip wants to come out and I kind of shift my weight out of alignment. If I bring in more grounding into my inner heel, I suddenly have more support from within, from this inner line of my leg that allows my hip to come back into alignment. And then I can begin rolling out the opposite foot. So you want to shift your weight downward too. If you're noticing that you're kind of shifting over to the side, just bend your knee a little bit more. using the support of your standing leg muscles, the integrity of your core as you roll out your first foot. So even here, you're thinking of this Tensegrity model. So everything is sliding and gliding. Your whole body is working as one to support you rolling out that foot. So you can notice if this leg, a lot of times you find it might stiffen, and then you're just rolling the one leg. So you can see the difference between a full body Tensegrity awareness and when you're just focusing on one spot. If you need to take a break, you can come off anytime. And if this is too much in your body, you can do this from seated as well as lying down. So you can actually come onto your back and roll your feet out on the mat with the balls or the dowel. That's what I've done in the past when I'm feeling a little bit too much pain through my back. Then I take the support of the earth to help me out. Good. So whenever you're rolling, you want to think, how is this feeling? What areas are feeling really good? Can I focus a little more attention to those spaces? Maybe even a pin and then a twist. In any areas that feel tender, or like they're saying they don't like the foot rolling, just avoid them. And you can roll the inner arch. Again, always keeping the awareness of how you're landing in your body, how your Tensegrity is flowing. Noticing if you're still breathing. And then you can roll the outer arch as well, or sorry, the outer foot, I should say. Good. You can shake that out whenever you're ready. Always honoring your body. So taking your time. If the first time you approach this practice, you're feeling like, okay, just a minute or less is all you need, know that you can just build from there. You can always do less. So now we're just going to check in with both sides of the body. So whichever foot side you didn't roll, see if you can inhale, slide and glide your hand up overhead. Exhale to slide and glide it back down. So noticing the fascia of your entire body sliding and gliding as you move. You might notice some clicking or popping, some sticky spots where it kind of skips over. And that's normal. Remember, if it's really intense, just stay on the other side of it. So only go as far as where it would start clicking, and then allow your arm to slide and glide on the other side of that spot. So you could take a little bit of a lateral stretch here. So let's see if we can try to stretch from the rib cage. So laterally stretching through the side of the rib cage. You might just bring your hand to your upper back, reaching your elbow up. Keep the shoulder relaxed. Just noticing the fascia that's around the rib cage and the diaphragm. Still evenly rooting into the earth. Radiant breath. Good. You can let that go and then check in with the other side now, the side that you've rolled. Notice what's happening on that side as you slide and glide the arm on the side of the foot that you rolled. So you might notice that there's more sliding and gliding on the side that you've rolled. So it's like the fascia has been hydrated from the soles of the feet all the way up through your body. Or you might not. It might still be clicky and poppy, and that's okay. And whenever you're ready to come into a lateral stretch, take the hand to the top of your back. Relax your shoulder, rooting down as you start to stretch from the side of the rib cage. So lifting up rather than just over, we're inhaling to lengthen up and then over. Connected to the suspenders of the rib cage and the shoulder blades. Good. You can let that one go. Take any release that might feel good. So maybe some palm tree. Cleansing breath. Maybe a pursed lip breath. So another way to really connect to that zipping up of the integrity of the core, we can use the SH breath. So before we move to the other side, you can check in with that. So finding your foundation, your connection of rooting down through the feet, inhaling radiant breath, and then exhaling the shh. So feeling that transverse abdominis coming around kind of like a corset. And then this zipping up of the inner core. From that place of zipping up, lift the other foot. If you lose your balance, that's okay. Just come back, rooting into the inner heel, all sides of the foot. Noticing if you're dumping the weight to remember to root into that inner heel. And tensegrity, awareness, radiant breath. And remember to check in and see if you're giving it 100%, do less. Through this series, you will have the invitation quite often. It will benefit you more to do less, to soften back. Any pinning and twisting, just exploring this side, this foot. If you want to take a break and come off, another thing you can do to explore is take the toe mounds, so the kind of top of the foot beneath the toes, place them on your dowel, noticing your alignment, rooting down, allowing your toes to kind of wrap over the dowel. Connect to the integrity of your core. The zipping up as your body drapes, the outer body drapes over this integrity. So you might just stay here exploring how this feels through the hips, through the feet. If you'd like, you can take a forward fold, so bringing your thumbs to the hip creases, sending the hips back, bending through your knees to start to forward fold. You might just come down a little ways, keeping a nice long spine. Reaching your tailbone back, reaching the crown of your head forward. So arms can hang. Notice if your shoulders are rounding. See if you've got a flat back. If you can draw the shoulder blades down the back, zip up the integrity of the core. And if you like, You can continue to explore all the way forward. Some days you may not want to. Now you can round through the upper back. Letting go of the head and the neck. Rooting into your foundation. Coming back up, you can walk the hands along the thighs to help yourself come back up. Coming off the dowel for a check-in. So today I'm just going to check in stillness, but if you would like movement, take palm tree or anything else that feels good in your body. Turning inward. Interoception, noticing how your body is feeling on the inside. Good, you can finish off any more foot rolling that your body still is asking for. Remembering to set yourself up, find that foundation. You can always bring a chair in if you're feeling your balance is a little off today. Or you can stand next to a wall to do your foot rolling. Checking in with how your foot lands on the earth. Just finishing up any final rolling. Or just taking a break at this point. If you feel you're complete, then you can find stillness and stay connected to your breath awareness. And once you've learned the foot rolling, this entire video, once you've done it enough times, you'll be able to do this on your own prior to a practice. So we're going to have a lot of repetition through this series, and this one is one that's like no other when it comes to the focus on alignment and your fascia and how it slides and glides. Good, you can finish up there. If you'd like, you can put your heels on the dowel. I'll just turn to the side so you can see. So stepping your heels onto the dowel, allowing your weight to drop through the heels. Still connecting through the big toe mounds, the pinky toe, all of the toe mounds and the toe pads. Just another exploration that you can play with. Noticing how the leg bones sit. Do they roll in or out? What's happening through the pelvis and the low back? Good, and when that's complete, you can remove your bigger dowel. We'll move on to the top of the foot release. So this one is for your front line, fascial line of the body. The foot rolling is for most of the other lines, other than so much the arm line. But this particular top of the foot release is for the front line. So we are going to, I always like to have a mat, or a blanket rolled up, just for extra comfort to bring my foot to. So again, you're going to ask which side you'd like to start with. Find your foundation in the standing leg and see if you can kind of roll your leg bone in slightly on the standing leg, pressing into the inner heel, the big toe mound as you bring the other foot, the top of the foot to the blanket behind you. So this can be fairly close into your body. That's where I like to start. Again, this is a good one to have a wall beside you or a chair for extra support. So you might start to feel a release through the top of the foot, coming up through the front of the leg, bending through that standing leg, full body tensegrity awareness. Zipping up with the exhales. If you want, I recommend exploring just here to start, playing with your full body awareness, making sure you're still breathing. And as you grow your practice, you might start to bring the arms into it. So you're sliding and gliding the arms at a 90-degree angle, the elbows. Elbows gather in, feeling the back body wrap. Ribs knit together. And then maybe you start to take a slight back bend, thinking this full body tensegrity. Sliding and gliding. And thinking of the suspenders. And then coming off whenever you're ready. Remember to only do your 50 to maybe 70% effort at the very most in this series. So we'll move to the other side. Transferring the weight to the other foot. Internally rotate the thigh bone inward. Grounding down through the inner heel and the rest of your foot as you bring the opposite foot to the top of the foot to the mat or to the blanket. Bending through the standing leg if you want extra support and foundation. Radiant breath. Option for the arms, only an option. I'm going to skip the arms on this side. So noticing your patterns. This side for me is a little bit, wants more integrity first in my foundation before I add the arms on. You might even just gaze up slightly, taking a little bit of a back bend. Good, roll the foot. This is a good opportunity to check your balance, rolling the foot, and then coming back down to shake it out. Good job. Okay, so we're going to move down now onto the floor. So this next one is tapping. So you might have heard of tapping or seen it in other modalities, and it can be very beneficial for the lymphatic system. So that's that system throughout your body that helps you detoxify, helps clear the toxins out of your body and your system through your lymph nodes. And by tapping, we are supporting that process. We're also, with a gentle tap, I'm using the longer dowel now for this one, this gentle vibration, you want to think of your body as receiving the vibration all the way from the skin, through the flesh, all the way down to your bones. So it's the fascia that connects all of that tissue is receiving the vibration and in turn getting hydrated. Okay, so we'll come onto our backs for this one. I have a 2-inch foam block to help support underneath my pelvis, and it's optional, you don't need it, but sometimes it's a little bit nicer to bring in more support. And then I have my neck pillow. So we'll do laying ourselves onto the ground into the support of the mat, of your pillow. Allow yourself to arrive here in constructive rest. So you could notice even here how your feet meet the earth, your proprioception of noticing. One side is often very different than the other. You can play now with the feet being wider apart, with support between the thighs, or the feet being closer together. Noticing what feels the most supportive, where you can find the foundation, your rooting, where you can allow the rest of your body to let go, to relax. So there's a few points we focus on a lot. That's the feet rooting, of course the pelvis rooting, noticing both sides of your pelvis and how they connect to the earth. You can bring your hands to your hip points, noticing is one hip point sitting up higher than the other? And remembering that whatever it is for you, that it's okay, that is what obviously supports your body the best at this point. So we're not coming in here trying to make big changes, we're just noticing and then bringing awareness with breath to the possibility of how a different alignment might feel. Radiant breath. Let's take the tops of our hands to the rib cage. So allowing the tops of the hands to connect to the sides of the rib cage, relaxing your shoulders, letting your elbows point out to the side so your arms can relax. And then noticing your radiant breath here. The expansion, the rib cage moves out. And then the contraction or gathering in. Releasing your jaw. If you've got any tension there, remembering there's that beautiful connection between the jaw and the pelvic floor. So letting the jaw release and release tension. As you bring your awareness inward, interoception, noticing how each side of your rib cage expands and then gathers. A few moments of silence here to explore this, to notice your radiant breath through your back body, your front body, and the sides of the rib cage. At any time, you can bring the hands out, palms face up, or your hands back to your hip points. Remembering that taking the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth it's the end of your fascial line in the body. So by bringing in that integrity at that point, you're connecting the integrity through with the rest of the body. You might visualize your diaphragm with the inhale moving down and contracting, flattening out like a pump. With your exhale, drawing back in and up, kind of like a jellyfish is swimming. Now that's your respiratory diaphragm we're focusing on. You could bring in, for those of you who can connect to the pelvic floor diaphragm, The inhale, the expansion and kind of release of the bowl of the pelvic floor. And then the exhale, as the jellyfish moves up, it draws the bowl of the pelvic floor slightly in and up. And do less. If you're ready to move into tapping, we're going to draw the knees in using our breath, and that's zippering up of the integrity of the core. So inhaling, feeling the expansion, three-dimensional. Exhale as you let the thigh bones roll in, and then zippering in and up to draw the knees in towards your chest. And we'll send the legs up, and you can just allow the legs to shake out. So this is where I like to bring in my support. So I'm going to lift my pelvis first. You may not need it, but I find it gives me a little bit more focus where I need it, which is my frontal core. So by putting the support in, you're essentially lengthening your back body. So it allows the front body to shorten and contract more. So we can focus more on that beautiful radiant breath. And the zippering in and up. So shaking the legs, you want your flesh to become nice and jiggly. Shaking your arms, so allowing your shoulder blades to snuggle under the heart space. Rooting down, and then arm bones sink into the shoulder socket, and from there, shaking out the flesh. Rooting into the back of your skull. Radiant breath as you're heavy through your pelvis. So go ahead and grab your long dowel. You can allow one leg to just kind of flop down, and we're going to start tapping through the calf muscle. So remembering to avoid your bones here. It doesn't feel very good when you tap on them. I hope you don't have to notice that. And then using any amount of pressure, starting softly, and then maybe there's areas that say that they'd like a little bit more pressure. It's feeling really good. You can shake the leg at the same time, allowing the fascia to receive the vibration all the way from your outer skin, through your flesh, all the way into your bones. Stay connected to your breath, remembering to ask, am I breathing? If you're not, just do less, find your breath, and then come back in when you're ready. Again, you can do this from a chair if this position is not feeling comfortable for you, or on a bed. So you'll spend as much or as little time as you like with your tapping. I'm going to move through it a little bit more quickly today, just in the interest of time. But you're welcome, once you get to know the practice, to really linger in areas that feel really good. You can bring the legs down and tap into the thighs. Remembering if there's areas that feel tender, often the inner thighs can feel tender, just to tap a little softer, or maybe even avoid them altogether. You can take a figure 4 position to check out the inner thigh. And also the backs of the legs. So for this part, there's a lot of connective tissue through the inner thighs and into the pelvis, the back of the legs. So you want to, again, jiggle the flesh, let it get really jiggly, and then bring in your tapping. So you can really feel the vibration being received all the way in through the bone. And the hamstrings can be quite tight, so trying to get them to jiggle can be difficult. Sometimes rolling over to one side can allow the hamstrings to loosen a little bit. You can tap all through the IT band, so that's that outer thigh, this band from the pelvis that moves from the hips all the way down the outer thigh. Connects into the knee, the glutes, maybe the low back a little bit, and just finding what works in your body. So the goal here is to get the flesh nice and jiggly, and then to receive the vibration through that jiggle. So the tenser the flesh is, the more contracted the muscle is, the less you'll feel or receive the vibration all the way through. So finding a way that you can allow your flesh to be soft. Good. Moving along again in the interest of time. We're going to put the dowel down for now. Cup your hands. We're going to tap through the digestive tract. So with this cupped hand, gently tapping through your belly, through the rib cage, the sides of the torso. And then taking tented fingertips in through the chest. And you can bring in the humming bee breath, the Brahmari breath. This is a pranayama breathing exercise that's really good for anxiety, helping you get into your body. So inhaling and then exhaling to hum. While you tap. Remembering to linger wherever it feels good. I'm going to move on to the arms. So again, letting the shoulder blades ground, arm bones sink into the shoulder blades, or shoulder socket, I'm sorry. Shake the flesh, and then begin tapping with either a cupped hand or tented fingers, back of hand. Notice what's happening in the hands and the fingers as well. Is there integrity there? Is there tensegrity awareness? Or has your hand just kind of flopped over? See if you can keep the awareness all the way through the entire body. Good, and then you can roll over to one side. Gently press yourself up to a seat. We're going to tap through our back body. So taking any comfortable seat and getting your long dowel again. And then just gently tapping through the neck as you breathe, radiant breath. The upper shoulders. The upper back. Remembering to avoid the bones if possible, staying to either side of the spine, avoiding the scapula or the shoulder blade. Maybe going underneath to the lower back. Receiving that vibration. Remembering to switch hands often as well, so trying not to use the same hand for the whole time, keeping a little bit more balance. Good. Finishing up your back body. And we'll come back onto our backs for our final portion of the Tensegrity Repair series before you move into your next videos and do the postures that go along with it. And this is called palming. So you're going to come onto your back. Find your constructive rest, your foundation. And then start rubbing your hands together vigorously, creating heat. And once you have some nice heat, take that heat and allow your palms to rest on the eye sockets. Fingertips can rest over the forehead. And we'll be here for about a minute. Maybe a cleansing breath, and you can set an intention for your day or for your practice. Maybe a good intention for a Tensegrity practice could be, I go with the flow in life, and I trust that whatever's meant for me will be presented to me. I go with the flow in life and trust that whatever's meant for me will be presented to me. I go with the flow in life and trust that whatever's meant for me will be presented to me. And feel free to make any other affirmation that will support you in your journey. And then go ahead and either do a meditation for your practice today or carry on and into one of the other Tensegrity videos that are offered to go along with this practice.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see.